Okay, so I know you already spoke a little bit about this, but what community does your business serve, and what problems or needs does your business address within this community?
Yeah, so the phrase that we have settled on are we talk about historically excluded communities. And so when you think about communities that were excluded from decisions and the economic benefits of the energy ecosystem, then we're talking about black and brown communities. We are really have a push for women as far as women contractors, companies, and women, period. What one of the things we love to do is explore working with more people who are living with disabilities or differently abled. So that would be an interesting challenge because people who, again, people honor and serve people who they identify with, right? So if we really did want to go deep into um, communities and then address the ones that are hardest to engage, then people who are living with disabilities would be another target for us, for contractors and for auditors.
Great. And then how did you, kind of along those same lines, how did you become aware and involved in the problem?
Yeah, that's really interesting because decades ago, I was when we were just talking about the fact that the energy, the grid is what we call it now, but the grid needed to be like upgraded, needed billions of dollars of investment in order to serve the load growth. When I was hearing about it, and I was not that involved on the consumer side. I was, of course, equipment um, is on the supply side, not the demand side. I ask a stupid question: who's going to pay for all this? If we really need to put billions and nationally trillions of dollars into the grid, who's going to pay for it? And the answer that came back was the ratepayers. And I'm from a poor background, and I knew that most ratepayers 30 years ago could not, many ratepayers, especially in the communities I care the most about, had trouble paying the bills at the rates they were at the time. So my question is, well, if you're going to invest this money into the grid and the ratepayers are paying for it, a lot of people are going to really be left behind, and we're going to be in trouble. There are going to be more shutoffs, more disconnects, and more poor outcomes. So and that was my personal interest, not my business interest. So I started doing workshops with churches, trying to help them understand the need to decrease their energy consumption, to decrease the cost, or what we now call the energy burden. So that was really how I really became interested in energy efficiency. That was literally uh, 15 years before the economy, again, the legislation was passed. But I've always been interested in decreasing the energy burden based on the economy. At that time, you all will find this very interesting because 30 years ago, I thought white people would resolve climate change. So I didn't have to worry about that. I'll let white people resolve what's going to happen 7 generations, from now, and for black and brown people and poor people, our um, detriment was, can we pay the bill at the end of the month? So I'm going to help families solve the economic burden that occurs every single month. And I'll let the people who are making the commercials about the polar ice caps, the polar bears, and the whales, they got this, right? We understand the science, and all we have to do is fix it. And one of the biggest regrets I have is that I actually thought that way. I actually thought that that climate science was agreed upon, in the 70s, and that we would all get together and solve. But I didn't have the context of the fact that climate change was going to become political. Between, it's either climate change or the oil and gas, the fossil economy. that we were on, because if that had not happened, I think that we would be so much farther along on climate change. So
I have some question. I want to know what's the main funding source of your company? Is this from DTE or from government or from some people in community?
yeah, about probably 80% of our revenues company-wide are from utilities.
Utility.
And so, yeah, so DTE is one of the utilities we work with. They're not our largest utility. We also work with Commonwealth Edison in Chicago, and they're our biggest contract is with Commonwealth Edison in the Chicago area. And the second biggest is probably Ameren, Illinois, in Southern Illinois.
Oh, I also found the president sent a lot of money for like this project. Is this true?
Yeah, the IRA and the BIL both have infrastructure money in it, and not just for companies but for individuals. So over the next few years, literally billions, hundreds of billions of dollars are going to be invested in the clean energy transition. And that's going to include the buildings, but also mobility, water, and infrastructure. So it really is a good time to be in. If you are in clean energy for business, this is a really good time to be in that. Even businesses like mine can apply for loans to retrofit their either manufacturing or their headquarter facilities. So schools, universities, there are opportunities for everyone to address the clean energy systems.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm busy after 9:30. Okay, so I'm sorry I have to leave now.
Okay, thank you. Take care, you child.
Yeah, take care.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. What are the primary customer segments that Walker Miller serves?
So for the purpose of this, and I think I'm going to try to limit my answers to just the purpose of what we're going to do. So
Yeah,
the primary customer segments that we serve are contractors. So heating and cooling contractors, insulation contractors, architects, so the contractor ecosystem, and even construction contractors, because we train contractors on addressing buildings as a system. And then the other customers are people from historically excluded communities, including all the communities I mentioned. And I said Black and brown, but I didn't say immigrant communities are of great interest to us as well.
Sorry about that. So could you kind of elaborate, based on those segments, kind of what benefits Walker Miller provides?
Sure.
In addition to, I know you spoke about like the importance of clean energy, but what other comparative advantages does Walker Miller offer?
Okay, and so I'm going to talk on, first I'm going to go to the people that we train as building auditors, as energy auditors, okay? So the energy auditors, we actually, the most important thing is that as catalyzers of equity is that we invite people into the clean energy economy. One of the things about this economy is that there are no organic on-ramps. You're not going to open the paper, even with all this money out here, you're not going to open the newspaper, but open LinkedIn and see 1,000 jobs that are entry level. So we invite people to come in at entry level and join the clean energy economy. So for BPI, we invite the groups of people. We actually do in community outreach and engagement to identify people who either have a high school diploma or a GED and can pass a basic math test and have an interest in clean energy. And the main advantage of our training program, or one of the advantages, is it's an on-ramp, but with the BPI certification. And BPI stands for Building Performance Institute. If you look up bpi.org, but it's a house as a system building science certification that allows you, again, to go in and do anything from a basic audit to becoming an expert where you're doing the quality control and evaluation of other people's audits. So you can do anything from being an $18 an hour auditor as entry level to, you know, $60, $70, $80,000 a year as a QA QC consultant. We pay, the biggest advantage is that we pay $18 an hour during training. So the reason that that is important for equity is that there are a lot of people that can't afford to go through a 6-week training program unless they're paid. They have families, they have bills, and they would not, you know, maybe they're making $9 an hour right now, but they can't say, okay, I'm not going to work for 6 weeks, right? So I can get this additional training. So the fact that we pay is the number one advantage. We also offer wraparound services. We offer transportation stipends for people who don't have transportation. In cities like Detroit, still something like 40% of the population don't have transportation. We also offer a stipend for daycare for people that really don't have built-in daycare. So we will pay anyone that will that they pick to sit with their kids, and we don't predetermine that it has to be a company or whatever. It can be your aunt or whatever. Then the most important thing that we added improvement is that we actually offer mental health services, because if you have been long-term unemployed, if you are a member of one of those communities and have experienced significant trauma, it really degrades your ability to perform, you know, even once you get the job. So from our experience in training, our last segment, we added a mental health element that is integrated into the training. So once a week, we bring a therapist in to work with the team, and it's been one of the most popular sections of our training, and which is really rewarding. So a lot of benefits when you compare it to traditional workforce development. Our KPI is employment. So we only train as many people as we can find a full-time job for, which is different from most training programs, meaning we're not successful unless someone ends with a job. Most training programs, the trainer is successful if someone passed the test or even just completes the training or gets a certification. Our KPI is employment.
Sorry, it looks like Emma might have.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it just kicked me off.
It's okay.
No problem.
I don't know if you heard Emma, but I said our main KPI is employment, and our contracts measure us on whether at the end of training the person that we train has a full-time job, and then whether they keep it for 6 months and then a year.
Okay. And then next, how does a customer purchase Walker Miller's products and services, and how do they receive these products and services?
So since we're talking about, that was the BPI training. Since we're talking about training, they actually learn about it through, we do community engagement, we do flyers. We'll go into community centers and neighborhoods and do flyers, because again, you'll see that a lot of our efforts reflect the fact that a lot of the people we're trying to reach may not even have a connection, you know, or access to the internet. So we do community engagement for historically excluded communities is a ground game. So we do the internet training online, outreach online. but we also do on-ground community engagement at events and in trusted community organizations.
And then you talked a little bit about like your retention of participants and like the threshold of 6 months. Could you expand upon a little bit like how you keep customers happy and excited to get repeat business, and how you continue to meet that threshold of 6 months?
Yeah. And so our commitment, our intent is to bring people into a clean energy transition for forever. But we measure it at 6 months, right? Is this person still engaged in the industry 6 months from now? And then is this person still engaged in the industry a year from now? And one of the ways that we are able to measure it is by delivering an extraordinary experience when they're in training, number one. But number two, having a community of people we've trained. So we say that if we train you and we place you and you don't have a good experience with the company that we place you at, you're still a valuable member of a community that needs clean energy practitioners. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm just going to go do something else or wandering around, come back to Walker Miller for your next assignment, right? And we will work with you and help you to be placed at a place that, that really matches your talents and your skills and your interests. That makes it easier to keep up with people if they really have a good experience, because it makes people want to stay connected to you, because we're offering them basically career placement services, right? Once we train you, we want to retain you, not just because we're making money for it, but because the industry needs you and our communities need you. So that's how we're able to do that, the measurement of 6 months from now and a year from now.
We just figured we'd join on the same laptop.
Yeah,
There's
okay. Taking me out, so I thought this would be easier.
Absolutely. Did I answer that question?
Absolutely, yeah. And then, so just out of curiosity, for like the workforce development, is there obviously like the work that these new employees are completing is generating the business money, but how does Walker Miller specifically make money from this
yes.
program? And,
yeah, that
what are the main sources of revenue?
Yeah, the incubator, the contractor, the BPI program, we are paid by the utility. So the training course that we start in a week or so, DTE actually pays us for the training. And then we go to organizations like, we go to nonprofits for the wraparound services. So we just got a grant from the MMSDC, the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Conference, to help pay for wraparound services. And we are applying for a grant from Kresge to pay for wraparound services. So that's really how we're compensated. It's a combination of the utility engagement community and the and our efforts to find funding. And there's also an entity, Detroit Employment Solutions. They help pay for the wraparound services, because otherwise we just have to do training without wraparound, and we wouldn't have the same level of success.
Additionally, what are the main costs of this program?
The cost are what we pay the BPI, which is the certifying body, and I'll have to get you the numbers after I hang up. I'll just send you the budget. The $18 an hour that we pay the people who are being trained. Those are and the labor for the Walker Miller trainers. And then we have partners. So remember I said that we provide mental health services, that we provide wraparound services, a child care stipend, a transportation stipend. Those are the main costs. So again, the labor of paying the people who are being trained, the labor of my team members who are doing the training and the mentoring part, the labor of our partners, and then the wraparound services are the four basic elements.
What would you say your annual revenue is?
For this program specifically?
Can I get you that back?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
I looked at the questions, but I wasn't thinking that we were going to zero in on this program.
Yeah.
But this is the one that is going to occur between now and December. So this is the right thing. So
Thank you.
and so the annual revenue for this program. Okay. And there was the cost for this program. All right. I'll get these to you before the end of the day.
Thank you.
And then could you talk a little bit about like some of the key activities that Walker Miller engages in through this program in order to achieve success?
Yep. Okay, the key activities are recruiting. We have to make sure that we are bringing the right people in who have an opportunity to be successful. So the program that starts in a week or so is called the BPI Upskilling Program. So these are people who are already in an industry, but they're not focused on clean energy. So we're bringing them from wherever they are right now to transfer to clean energy. So the recruiting is a big activity. Then we have the training, the technical training element is a big activity. The soft skills training is a much bigger element than you would think. Then we have the job. The last 2 weeks is a on-the-job training. On-the-job training. Then we have the written test, the field testing, and then the placement. And after the placement, then we have the 6-month and 12-month check-ins. I think I missed one. Yeah, that's it.
And then for the program again, who are your key partners and suppliers, and what do they benefit for them?
Okay. The key partners are Detroit Employment Services. They help us with the recruiting and wraparound. Okay. We advertise the class at Detroit Employment Solutions, so they help us with the recruiting. Our key partners we have a group of trainers, and our biggest key partner is DTE Energy, okay, because they pay for the fundamental training. Then the person that actually does the technical recruiting is called Air Doctors, a person named Bryn Cooksey. Our other partners we have some, do you know what a CDFI is? Community Development Finance Institute. CDFIs are companies that are really banking institutions. They do training by helping people understand where they can get money to grow their businesses or become bigger contractors. So CDFIs are a part. And then we have our I guess I don't have to mention us. The soft skill trainers. There's a guy named Dr. Actually, I don't know if he's going to be in this particular segment, so let me get back with you on whether Dr. Tolu is going to be there. Okay, then we always have to have a testing proctor because the same people that do the training can't do the testing. We always have to have a location for testing because they actually test at a residence for the field testing. And then everyone else is internal.
And then what key resources does the program possess? So anything like more tangible, like like land or buildings, money, equipment, people, and then also more on like the technology side. So what technologies does the program use to kind of like create the program and then also like to run it?
Yeah, to create the program, we created it years ago, but to run it, we absolutely need, everyone has, the people being trained have to have laptops, of course, and they have to have the curriculum that we get from the Building Performance Institute, the Energy Auditor curriculum. We have to have testing equipment for the training and for the field testing. So, when we're training, one of the main pieces of equipment is called a blower door test that actually measures the difference in the air pressure from the outside of a building to the inside or the conditioned space. So we have to have blower door testing equipment, computers, a location, and I think that's all.
So does this program have any have any competitors, and then what does the program offer that others do not?
I love that question. We do have competitors. There's if you look up bpi.org, there are a number of companies that actually do BPI testing, but BPI testing is typically, like I was BPI certified. When I took the test, it was 4 days and then a half a day of testing. But that's because I have an engineering degree and some experience, right? So someone off the street could not take the test in 4 days. So what we've done, the reason that it's a 6 weeks test, and again, 2 weeks of that is on the job training, is that the typical person could not come in and take the test and become certified. So the main advantage is that we teach the test in bite-sized chunks so that it is an on-ramp. Someone with no experience in clean energy efficiency, HVAC, zero experience can actually come in and become certified. That's the number one. The number two thing that sets us apart is that we're paying and providing wraparound services so that we are able to include a much larger percentage of the population. And the third really is our KPI, that our KPI is employment or placement. Those companies, when I took the test, I had 4 days, a half a day of testing, and they were done. They did not care if I passed the test, failed the test, or whatever. They got paid because I took the course. And again, we get paid when people pass the test and are either, this is actually, I keep saying employed, but this is actually the upskilled. So what we want then is for people to retain the positions that they are in, or we track people who get promotions or go to a better job. So if you go, it's kind of like if you're working for a company and you get your MBA, you're going to expect to get a raise or an elevation, or either dollars or title. And we expect the people from in this program who are a lot of times just doing plain old labor to go from that to either getting a raise or an elevation. And that's why we track, if they went to it, sometimes they have to go to a different company to get an elevation. So that's the main advantage is that we're able to serve people that could not be served at all through the normal BPI certification process.
And then what like were some of the like key challenges or hurdles that you had to overcome when building the program?
Yeah, so the key challenge is us actually understanding, because we're a service company, but we're not a training company. One of the reasons that we started DPI training is that once I got the certification, I realized that people that work for me are better employees if they understand building science, if they understand how a home works as a system. So once we made the commitment, we had a force team of people who could not have taken the class in 4 days. So we actually innovated the 6-week schedule so that we could upskill our team members. Um, um, we made a lot of mistakes. We didn't have the best math teachers. A large part of the curriculum is math. You have to understand the Pythagorean theorem in order to calculate the area. And in building science, you have to know the areas. You have to know how many windows and how many square feet of space that you have in every area. So we didn't have a good handle on not someone who understood math, but someone who could teach math, which is very different. We didn't understand, again, because we were going in communities and bringing people in who were not, who were long-term unemployed sometimes, who were, I didn't mention this, but who were, here they call them returning citizens. I like to call them justice impacted people, right? Those who are justice impacted. We didn't realize that the traumas, to be honest, that some of the people we were training had been through. The first BPI class we ever did, there was a Black woman who was one of the few women that have come through the course. She passed the course with flying colors, went to work one day, and we never heard from her again. To this day, we haven't heard from her, and I have no idea why, right? She passed a really rigorous test. So we had several situations where mental health was a big factor. And it's only been the last 3 sessions that we actually added mental health as an element. So every iteration, we get better and we understand what success looks like. When we first did this course, we probably had a 60 or 70% retention and pass rate. Now both of those are over 90% retention rate and pass rate. So we've gotten really, really good at what we're doing.
That's great. What would you say your main strengths of this program are, as well as their biggest weaknesses?
The main strength is, again, we know what we're doing. Our results speak for themselves. Nationally, 50% of the people who take this test nationally pass it. So we are better, so much better than the national average. That is our main strength. The biggest weakness is the cost. This is a really, really expensive program. So this certification, and you'll see the difference when I send you what it costs for our budget. If I took the certification, it's probably $4,000 each a person. I can't even tell you what we do is astronomically higher than that, and I'll get you those numbers. So the biggest weakness is the cost. And so one of our biggest challenges is justifying the cost with the value. Because again, if you're paying $4,000, but only 50% of the people are passing, what do those people do, afterwards, right? So justifying the value is one of our biggest challenges.
And then what kind of opportunities do you see for the program? Kind of along those same lines.
Yeah, well, I think that we could do this program nonstop in just about every city in the country, to be honest. I actually retrofitted my house 2 years ago, and one of the biggest challenges we have, it was getting contractors. So the contractors that I wanted to do heat pumps, and I was told over and over again that heat pumps don't work in cold climates. Well, heat pumps do work in cold climates, but the number of contractors who know how to install and maintain heat pumps is very low, number one. But number two, if you're making money doing what you've always done and you can do quickly, and you can maintain it, then contractors really don't have an incentive to move to electrification. So that is another reason that we know we can do this over and over again. We have testimonials from contractors who, are making more money now that they've gone through this program and are really grateful to us because they would not have made the transition. Even though there are more people asking for heat pumps and fewer people who know how to install heat pumps, right? So once you understand that, then you really differentiate yourself as a contractor. So I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
Just some more of like the key opportunities specifically.
Yeah.
Even just like your answer just now kind of touched on it a little bit, but specifically operating in the city of Detroit, what do you see as like the key opportunities there?
Just the growth opportunity. Just the growth opportunity with the federal money that is coming in to electrify the energy ecosystem. Then we have the opportunity to run this program over and over and over again in the city of Detroit, in Southeast Michigan, in the state and nationally. So the growth opportunity is, I can't even predict. We could run, even now for the classes that we run, we have waiting lists. So we could run this program many, many more times, and the ecosystem could absorb it. There's most of the, I don't know if you all are familiar with community action agencies, but Wayne County is served by Wayne Metro Community Action Agency, and they were one of the first agencies to get a bunch of the federal money. Before they can actually spend this money, the work that they're getting money to do has to have a BPI energy audit. So it literally, a dearth of contractors that understand BPI is a barrier to even spending a lot of the money that's coming into the ecosystem. So the growth opportunity for us financially, but also the growth opportunity for the contractors is enormous.
So looking at this program and like ways to improve it, what would you say is the primary thing that must be done in order to do that?
Long-term financing, number one. The scale. It sounds really stupid for me to be saying it as a business person, but this needs to be like normalized. I think that community colleges should probably be teaching this certification as a standard, so that we can get more people who are actually able to do the evaluations on these homes and buildings. So just it really just needs to be scaled and adopted by more people. Mm-hmm. Because BPI is not the only certification. There are other certifications. I should mention that one is called ResNet, and one is called ResNet, but it's even more technical than BPI. So again, scaling, the knowledge of building science, and the commitment to electrification. A lot of people who are, for instance, if your parents are probably highly educated, but a lot of people don't know, if their furnace failed today, they would not know that they should probably try to move to a heat pump, right? If they called their contractor right now, their contractor would say, oh, this is so-and-so BTUs, I'm going to put another fossil so-and-so BTUs, right? And that's not going to serve the homeowner well, because if they went to sell their home a year or two from now, they get more money. If it was a heat pump, their energy bill would be lower, if it was a heat pump, and the indoor air quality would be better if it was a heat pump. So really educating consumers is really something that would help also grow the ecosystem, because most people just don't know about the clean energy, the demand and the necessity for the clean energy transition.
And then just kind of last like real question for you. Is there anything that you'd like to add to our discussion?
Just that I'm excited about you all being here. I'm really excited about you being able to dig into what we can do better. We are a Six Sigma company, meaning that anybody that gets on board, it has to have a Six Sigma white belt, which is continuous improvement process. So I am looking to you all to, evaluate what we're doing and help us to get better.
Awesome. We're very excited to work with you guys too.
Yeah.